Hi, and welcome to the Deep End. How are you? Mike Schopp, Adam Krautwurst. Thanks for being with us. Tuesday, October 15th. Busy day in the NFL with two pretty big trades. I mean, at least one very big trade. Davante Adams, Amari Cooper. What does it mean to them? For them? What does it mean for the ancillary parts around these players, either coming or going? What about Garrett Wilson at this point? What about players on the teams these guys have left? Maybe there's value there. We will just sort of think out loud when it comes to this sort of stuff here, Adam and I, tonight. Talk a little bit of the strategy in week 6, the all-play week in the FFPC. Check in on the Deep End Invitational as well. Adam's going to make me do that. Thanks for listening and being with us. Powered by Player Profiler, Mike and Adam in the Deep End.
You know, people always ask you, are you a Bills fan? Are you happy you want the Bills to be good? And you always say, I'm happy for my friends and family when the Bills are doing well. I had that feeling today for my children when Amari Cooper gets traded to the Bills and my son calls me from the school bus. Like, he's not allowed to have his phone. He pulls his phone out on the school bus after school and looks, and he describes the emotions, the roller coaster of, oh my God, the Jets got Davante Adams. Oh, it's the end of the world. And then he scrolls down and the Bills got Amari Cooper. The school bus is going crazy. What a day. What a day.
Can you remember in your life, in your childhood, a trade like that was just so, I mean, it was a different time with communication, but like the Bills comp for me is Cornelius Bennett.
Yeah.
I mean, that's 1987, but Kelly walked in 86 and the 87 team was kind of good. They were sort of ended up being 7-8 strike year. And they, the trade, it's a 3-way trade with Indianapolis and the Rams, where the Bills trade their running back Greg Bell to the Rams, and the Rams trade Hall of Famer Eric Dickerson to the Colts. Oh. And the Colts trade their second overall pick they hadn't signed, Cornelius Bennett, to the Bills.
Wow.
And then he plays the next week, and whether that was the Denver game, I think, or Miami, they were both like great wins that year. So maybe I would think of more baseball trades for this in my life, but
I was in a meeting. I was in a work meeting when they traded for LaShawn McCoy, and I had to stop the meeting for that one. Kiko Alonso, the legend of Kiko, get out of here, bring in LaShawn McCoy. So no, that was a fun day today. It was a fun day, and it makes sense. And we'll get into it. We'll get into it.
I was in a hot tub for that trade in Florida.
The deep end, baby.
In the deep end. In an hour, I was on WIP talking about Kiko Alonso. I mean, Diggs this year, I was at Moana at Disney. Yeah, these trades sometimes happen. Like they line up with the annual Florida trip, and I'm walking around that new Moana exhibit at Epcot where you get kind of wet. And I looked at my phone like they really just traded Stephon Diggs. It's not a joke.
Right.
I just sort of said that out loud to who knows, randos from anywhere in the world.
That's
but
funny.
Today, my son Julius and I were sitting at the dining room table. I was late to work, and I just made chili, and we're eating chili, and like, Amari Cooper to the Bills. And his immediate reaction is the same as it would ever be, which is, you have something to talk about.
Yep, that's right. That's right. That's right.
Which is true. So we should do that.
Let's do it.
How much of a difference do you think for the Bills offense Cooper will make?
He's going to make a gigantic difference, not just from what, like, I'm not even talking about like what he's going to do statistics wise. It's just their teams are playing a defense against the Bills this year that Josh Allen hasn't seen since like year 2, right? They're playing cover 0 and they're blitzing and they're challenging these receivers because the receivers can't beat them. I mean, even last night, Keon Coleman runs a route. Josh Allen couldn't have run down and handed the ball any better to him on the sideline, and he drops it. And it's like, Keon Coleman's been fine, whatever, but a Cooper will not allow defenses to do that. He's a phenomenal receiver against man. In fact, even this year, he's having his best number since 2018. He's averaging like 2.89 yards of separation. He's having trouble catching the ball, but, hopefully a change of scenery will help with that. But I think just you can't leave him one-on-one. He will kill you. So I think just getting teams out of that, or hey, You want to stay in cover zero and keep blitzing? Now Josh is going to kill you. He's going to absolutely kill you. So I think it's really good for them as a team, as an overall, to be like, hey, let's get back to what we do best. And so I think he's basically Stephon Diggs minus maybe the drama queen stuff. And if he can come in there and just run routes, get open, be professional, and just, when Josh needs him, he's there. I think he makes this team, this offense just work so much better.
Well, of course, any Bills fan hopes you're right. I'm a little bit more muted when it comes to Cooper, the player. At 30, the problem with Diggs was he was old. And, the personality conflict stuff ended up leading to his being traded. But Cooper is 30 as well. And he's had a tough year. And the Bills fan, the knee-jerk reaction, which isn't necessarily wrong, is to blame that on Deshaun Watson. Okay. I mean, you certainly can. He leads the league in drops, but I think no matter what it amounts to, and again, hopefully it's everything you said for that team, it's a chance you have to take. The Bills, I mean, I think the GM of the team, Brandon Beane, is so my style. And in football, you have lots of seasons that kind of come and go where teams are not willing to trade a third-round draft pick.
Right.
For somebody good that goes right in. I mean, why not? We're in the fantasy space, and we would always do that. We're trying to figure out ways to trade our draft picks for, win now players. And that's what happened here. That's also what the Jets did. So I commend it.
Yeah. And from a fantasy perspective for Cooper, I think he's wide receiver 36 right now. So I don't, in PPR, I think he'll finish higher than that. I don't think he'll get, I think he was averaging like 8.9 targets a game, around 9 targets a game with Cleveland. But I think 7 targets in Buffalo is worth 9 targets in Cleveland. The Bills are, they're a better offense. They're going to score more points, and he's going to be the focal point of that passing attack when they do need big plays and when they do need a lot of help in the red zone. Like there's not a lot of that's play calling too, but yeah, I think he'll step right into a. Like I said, he's been less than a wide receiver 3. So if he's a wide receiver 3 the rest of the way, you did fine. He could be a low end wide receiver 2 if things really get going here. And so I think it's a win for him.
So main event, high stakes, really any league, not Dynasty yet, but you already were starting Amari Cooper almost always, and now you definitely are. Confirmed?
Yeah, I mean, with the injuries and bye weeks, you're doing it. Yeah, Cooper, he was probably your 4th or 5th round pick. So you were definitely doing it. And now you're doing it with confidence. This week's going to be a little tough. I don't know how much he's going to play and all that type of stuff. I know he's healthy, but
they're also a 9-point favorite.
They were a 9-point favorite before the trade, right? Exactly. So they might not even need him. So who knows if he's even active? But whatever. He'll be good going forward after that. But what do you think? I mean, immediately as the degenerate fantasy guy, I mean, my mind goes to like Jerry Jeudy, right? Like, what does it mean for him now? Is he the number 1 there now? Does it matter? Jeudy was a guy that you probably weren't starting, maybe if you had crazy injuries and bye weeks, but now maybe he's a guy that you slide in there as a flex or a kind of a desperation play because he hasn't been terrible. And I think, and you always have good takes on this stuff, I think Jameis Winston's the next domino to fall. I mean, you trade away Cooper. What's the use in playing Watson? You're kind of pulling the plug. Put Winston in there and let's freaking roll.
Wow. I mean, the Browns are a unique situation because everybody thinks that coach wants to take him out, Watson, but he can't. And, he's the good soldier at these press conferences. Like, no, he gives us the best chance to win. Like, who believes that?
Right. They haven't scored 20 points all year.
I mean, Bill Barnwell's stuff on how Deshaun Watson efficiency-wise measures up to any quarterback in the last 20 years. He's the worst quarterback you've ever seen.
Yeah.
at this. So any other sort of neutral situation, he would come out. Judy's tough. I mean, I wish I could say I've only started him this year when in an emergency, but it's not true. I've started him more often than that.
Yeah.
My dynasty life is really, I don't know. I need a team. I need help when it comes to that. It's been bad overall. Not you and I. So I guess I wonder why you're involved. That's why it's not bad.
Oh yeah.
I think the guy in Cleveland who gets the bump is Njoku.
Njoku, yeah. Yep.
Because he actually did produce with Watson or with, Flacco, I guess. But last year he got there and he's healthy now. And I think that should probably be fine. Judy is tough. If I'm the Browns, I want to see Elijah Higgins. I mean, I want to see different younger options because I've officially sort of thrown the towel in on this year. And that can work. I mean, maybe Watson gets hurt. He might love it. And then, some of those options become live. So that's what we're always trying to do is find players who maybe are one step away, one play away from being relevant. Receiver, that's tougher than running back. Although Nick Chubb is coming back and maybe the Browns this week, they have the Bengals. That doesn't have to be so terrible.
I mean, I don't even know where they are with where are the Browns? Are they put Chubb out there for a game, show he's healthy, trade him. Like someone's looking for a running back down the stretch. I mean, that's what I'd be doing if I were them. Once you get rid of Cooper, like you're just kind of showing your hand. Interesting enough, too, we're talking about the receivers and the tight end. The Browns have the fourth toughest receiver schedule, strength of schedule down the stretch. They have the fourth easiest tight end schedule down the stretch. So, yeah, I think if you're trying to kind of make a play for this, maybe Njoku is the play. Maybe try to trade for him before he goes off or whatever. But yeah, I think the receivers are going to be tough to trust. They're the only team in the NFL to not score 20 points. Watson stinks, but you get Jameis Winston in there and get Njoku rolling. I think you could have some fantasy pieces there.
How bad for you is the Watson scene? So you and I have him on our RotoViz Dynasty team. That was the bet we made in the startup draft. He'll be back. He'll be Deshaun Watson, and that has not happened. I mean, are we at a point where it's a cut, or is it just sort of like you just let it die? I mean, nobody's trading for him, right?
Right. Yeah, you just let it die. I mean, you can't really cut quarterbacks in super flex. Is this super flex?
Yeah.
Is this one? Yeah. You can't really cut starting quarterbacks in super flex just because you're going to need it for injuries and bye weeks. But I mean, when he doesn't play this year, eventually, I don't think he'll play again. I mean, he's not going to want to go in. I don't even think he wants to play. He would be relieved to be benched, I'm sure. He's getting, not only that, but like, again, I hate to make it sound like we're just kind of piling on him. He's getting killed. I mean, he's getting sacked at an absurd rate. I mean, he's got to be physically battered, mentally battered and bruised. Like, I just feel like it's just a disaster. But yeah, you can't cut him in super flex. You certainly can't trade him for anything. So yeah, you just kind of let it die there and start him in decent matchups and hope to get 20 fantasy points.
That team we have in RotoViz is Allen, Watson, Levis, May. So it's Drake May time.
Let's go, baby.
that went well. I mean, kind of in one quarterback FFPC dynasty drafts, just sort of like a throw-in pick. I mean, there were a couple he went very late because the quarterback needy teams are taking Williams and Daniels up top, or even McCarthy maybe, or Nix, and then May he did slide a couple times. So I'm kind of excited by what I saw from him, or heard about what I didn't see the game, but heard of what happened with him, even though there were some turnovers against Houston. Before we leave the Amari Cooper trade, if there's anybody on the Bills that I think is affected negatively, I mean, you're talking about Coleman or Samuel, guys, best ball guys or dynasty guys in Coleman that we haven't been starting anyway, mostly. I wonder about Kincaid, though. Like, Kincaid's still not really the tight end. You have Knox. Knox scored a touchdown on Monday night against the Jets, too. That's more of a security blanket red zone play for the Bills, as we saw. And Kincaid is still not ever popped. Like, he's not at 50 yards in a game this year. Last year, late in the season, he had a couple. I don't know, Adam. I think if Cooper is relevant, which he has to be almost at this point after this trade as an outside receiver, then what else happens? Like Shakir in the slot. I don't know. It could squeeze Kincaid, I think, and they already weren't getting very much. I mean, they have the draft investment that makes you think they should really want to push that, but they haven't yet.
Yeah, they haven't really pushed anything there in Buffalo. I mean, it can't get any worse for Kincaid, right? So, like, maybe this opens it up for them. Maybe they were the Bills weren't planning on these cover zero looks, and it doesn't work to what they're wanting to do. But you'd think a really talented tight end would do something against, man defense. So it is interesting. I don't think it makes it worse. I think Kincaid kind of stays the same. I think Shakir kind of stays the same. You weren't really wanting to start anybody else anyways. And maybe bringing Amari Cooper in kind of helps those guys pop a little bit, because they've gone into these, they have these games where they look absolutely unstoppable. And then they have these spurt, like even in the first half yesterday, they looked unstoppable, but then they get these spurts of like halves where they can't move the ball. I mean, that game, I'm sure you talked about it all day, but that was an unwatchable disaster of referees. Just, they couldn't let anything get going. I mean, that was crazy town. But yeah, so I don't think Kincaid stock moves, and I don't think Shakir stock moves. I think Cooper comes in and kind of helps everything kind of stay more consistent and stay on the field more.
Ray Davis, by the way.
That's right. Ray Davis. So yeah, Ray Davis is an interesting one, because now you've got Cook. Does Cook come back to his full-time role? I don't think he does. My argument against Cook this year was he's never missed a game. He's bound to miss a game. And God, you don't want to see him miss games like this, though, like where all these fantasy owners get screwed. But he's not a full-size back, right? Ray Davis is much bigger than James Cook is. So I think they're going to roll him in here to kind of keep everybody fresh down the stretch.
The big catch on Monday night was nice, but Davis is about those sort of bull runs in the first drive, the Bills' first offensive drive, and he was impressive. I like the player, and I just have never been on Cook, and so I'm not rooting against Cook per se, but I feel like I'm very open to Davis carving out more of a role. In the deep end, Mike Schopp and Adam Krautwurst. We'll get to Davante Adams next, but first, a word from our sponsor.
Hey, I know it's a popular statistic to cite, these underdog pick'ems, the vast majority of people go more than on any given player. Yeah, close to 80% of people, but that's because it's easier to find the shootouts than it is to find the dud games every Sunday afternoon. Like, we knew week 5, Ravens-Bengals was going to be a shootout. And there goes Lamar Jackson for 4 touchdowns. There goes Joe Burrow for 5 touchdowns. Derrick Henry gets there. Zay Flowers is over 100 yards. Jamar Chase and T. Higgins both got there, as well as Chase Brown. Both Chases got there. You go more than, you 100x your payout on Underdog with their Pick 6 contest. But then you look at Dolphins Patriots, that's going down the toilet, right? Too bad Ramondre Stevenson at 18 fantasy points. But you improve your chances at positive returns when you correlate with these Underdog pick'ems. Use promo code Underworld. This is the biggest bonus Underdog has ever given out, up to $125. Promo code is Underworld. Put in $250, you get $125. Now go start picking.
Well, Davante Adams is a Jet. That was sort of to be expected all along, I guess. The Jets are 2-4. I mean, I still would make this bet if I were they, because they've made the bet on Rodgers, and you just got to sort of, we've been there in fantasy, right? I already decided I'm going for it. It's still not technically too late, so I will keep pushing. What do you think of this idea for them as we start on that one?
I love it. I mean, they're 2 field goals away from being 4-2, right? Like they're not as bad as people. I mean, I grant they fired their coach, so it sounds like it's all crazy. But like last night, I mean, they had some injuries on defense kind of throughout the game, but their offense looked awesome. And the Bills have a good defense, and they just kept kind of falling apart inside the 10. Like they had the holding that gets called back, and they miss a field goal. Another penalty on another drive. Garrett Wilson, Tyler Rapp makes a great play on Garrett Wilson in the end zone to keep that from scoring. So like their offense was moving the ball. I was super excited about Garrett Wilson after last night. Like finally they're moving him in the slot. He's tearing it up. They're good. That's the move for him. Little frustration as a Garrett Wilson kind of guy about them bringing in Davante Adams, because he's going to go from that 30% target share that he gets every single week. He's going to go down, right? But if they leave him in the slot, I think that'll be really good for him. Think Davante Adams and Jordy. Now, like whenever Rodgers can have those 2 receivers working for sure. So I love the move for the Jets. I like the move for Adams too. Like, again, he loses that, like Wilson, they lose that top 3 receiver upside, but they gain kind of some consistency. Like they're both probably going to be wide receiver 2s. They'll have some spike wide receiver 1 weeks, but I think that the consistency of having an offense that can move the ball and it kind of opens it up for everybody. I like it for Adams because, I mean, he was wide receiver, whatever, before. I mean, he's been hurt all year, but he comes back to a competent quarterback and an offense, I think, starting to figure it out by moving Garrett Wilson into the slot. Breece Hall looked incredible last night. And so now, granted, the Bills' run defense is terrible, but yeah, look, I think I like it for them. For more consistency, you feel much safer to put those guys in there. And from an NFL perspective, like I said, they're 2 field goals away from being 4-2. The AFC is kind of a little bit of a mess after the top 2. And so I think they can certainly make a push for the playoffs.
So do I. I'm trying to figure out who Wilson is now for the rest of the season. And like Lazard is probably not going away. I mean, that is just like such a safe space for Rodgers. The Hail Mary, over 100 yards last night as well.
Yeah.
I mean, Wilson too, and Breece Hall. I mean, if Rodgers gets to 300, he almost did. Like, that's one of those games where you have the quarterback, the running back, and the 2 receivers all over their bonus points, but didn't quite get there. I think maybe the best I can do is Seattle with JSN, maybe Wilson, because
maybe T. Higgins.
But the whole point of this is giving Aaron Rodgers anything he wants.
Yeah.
And it has not worked at all yet. But the running back is great. Maybe the second one's fine. Adams, we know. Lazard is Rodgers' like sort of backup plan. And then where does that leave Wilson? It is encouraging to think about how much volume Wilson has gotten the last 2 weeks. I mean, 23 targets 2 games ago is insane. Rodgers isn't afraid of Garrett Wilson. I don't think there's any riff or anything that's problematic, but I just don't love where it ends up because Adams has to work. Lazard is still going to be a thorn in all of our sides, and Wilson has to be sort of brought down by all of this. I mean, are we starting Garrett Wilson no matter what? Week 7 at Pittsburgh? Is it like that? I mean, Adams has time to adjust. Would you start him? Where would you maybe sort of quasi rank Garrett Wilson is he wide receiver 20? Is that high or low?
I think that might be right on the money. I mean,
oh, thank you. Wow.
I don't know. I mean, right now he's wide receiver 7. Pittsburgh for sure. I'm starting him considering Adams. I'm sure will play, but it's going to take him a minute to get going, I think. But yeah, I mean, I think he could be wide receiver 15, somewhere in there. I don't know how consistent it's going to be. I think it's going to be a lot of 6 for. I think it's going to be easier for him in Rodgers, like the 6 for 60, the 6. Like I think those games are going to be really easy to get you. Those kind of 6 for 60, 6 for 80, those type of games. The spike games like he's had the last 2 weeks will be a lot tougher with Davante Adams there. I think that the red zone targets will go to Davante Adams because he's so good there, and him and Rodgers are so connected there. And so I think that the big touchdown games won't be there, but they haven't really been there anyways for Garrett Wilson. So, like I said, I think he's wide receiver 15 to 20, but I think it's kind of a lock for that rather than wide receiver 5 and then wide receiver 40, like he's been kind of the last year and a half.
Yeah. Wilson has 3 touchdowns this year. I want to find out who leads the league and then sort of surprise you with it. So did you know that Allen Lazard is tied for the league lead in touchdown catches?
Yeah, I'm actually staring at it right now before you even say anything. Yeah. Him
Evans and Godwin. Yeah. Evans and Godwin, same team. Chase, Kittle, Lazard. Marvin Harrison has 4. I don't believe I've seen him on the field.
I don't believe I've met Marvin Harrison. Yeah, I'm not really sure.
I have not met Marvin Harrison, but he has 4 touchdowns, so good for him. Injured last week.
All in the first quarter of week 2, by the way. All four of those.
Almost. Okay. So Jets, I mean, they have, if you love watching the Jets in prime time, which who doesn't? Week 7, week 9, week 11. They have Houston on a Thursday night on Halloween.
Ooh.
And they have Indianapolis in week 11 as well. Also, like that's a Sunday, or I think it's a Sunday night. Could be a Monday night. I think it's a Sunday night. So the Jets have 2 Thursday games like by the end of October, which is nuts. They've gone to London already. and they have these other night games. It's kind of insane. And they are 2-4, so I don't know how good it is, but I guess we have to be just obsessed about the Jets these days to be interested in football. They're the team they want us to care about.
Yep.
On the Raiders side, Bowers, anybody else? What do you want to do with the Raiders?
Bowers. I mean, Jacoby Myers, I guess. I mean, he's had his day. He had his games last year, but he's been banged up this year. So if you can get back to it, I'd have to go look at the splits right now with how he did with AOC last year. Because I know he had some some really good games last year and the year before. So, not the year before, but last season. So I gotta go look. I mean, he's startable now, but Bowers for sure. Bowers looked awesome last week. Trey Tucker was a guy that I had to start in some spot starts because he had a couple decent weeks leading, and of course a 0. From
lots
him.
of routes, Adam. At least, I mean, he was not sort of like forgotten about, but didn't amount to anything in a game where they were down 3 touchdowns.
Yeah, it's just you get these quarterbacks and these offenses and these marginal players. It's like, they have these games where they just disappear. 0, 0, 0. Like I'm trying to think of, you get some other receivers. I'm trying to think. I'll think of somebody, but like they have a good week or two, and you're like, oh, I can put him in my lineup now, and then 0. It's like, man, what the hell? Alec Pierce is an example, right? Like the guy goes for 20, and then 0, and then he's got 0 for 3 quarters and goes for 30 in 1 quarter, and it's just crazy, man. These receivers. So that's kind of going back to the Davante Adams thing. Like, I watched that receiver show on Netflix, and I don't know if you watched that, Mike, and just the frustration from a guy like Adams, like a Hall of Famer who's just dealing with just incompetent quarterback play and incompetent offenses. Like, it's just a breath of fresh air. A guy like Amari Cooper, he's going to show up to Buffalo. Adams is going to show up to Aaron Rodgers, his BFF, and I think he's going to absolutely love it. I know you're down on the Jets as an organizational standpoint, but I think for Adams and Cooper, I think it'll be really, really good.
Davante Adams just seems super high maintenance. I mean, why would you want the Raiders in the first place? Like, you only care about whether your quarterback is your friend. I mean, is that what we're doing here? Like, just like, oh well, I know him and I like him, so Davante Adams seems like he could be the perfect New York Jet. Just somebody that I'm going to get attention. I'm going to play with the guys that I know and like. I mean, and we win. We don't. It's never about winning, really, right? Who goes to the Raiders on purpose?
To play with his friend.
Has anybody ever paid attention to the Raiders franchise history and like, no. That's a team I want to play for, unless it's like to play in Vegas or to play with your friend or
Fred
just like,
Biletnikoff. Okay, he loved it.
So there's a guy. I could get the helmet out. Of course, I know you're a fan, and so am I by extension. There's a guy who didn't have a choice.
Right.
And they're going to give him the good glue for his hands, and he's going to love it. And he's going to, Oakland, California. We're going to play in the baseball field is still our field, and I'm going to slide into second for a 9-yard gain. That's how it was. But I don't know. I don't want to get too carried away with Davante Adams. I mean, just like, all right, take a break.
Yeah, I mean, I think it'll be consistent start. What are we doing with Mike Williams? Speaking of sliding into second, what are we doing with Mike Williams now? I mean, you can probably you can probably cut him. You can probably
That's
cut
funny.
Mike Williams. But,
I mean, I would cut other dart throw receivers and tight ends first.
Trey Tucker. You're cutting Trey Tucker.
No, I would not cut Trey Tucker over Mike Williams. No. Because he should be like wide receiver 2 on a team that's going to be losing a lot. So I think I would keep – I think he might be good too. I mean, I don't know. Williams is going to be on another team in a month. So
I would think quicker than that, I would think.
Yeah, by a month. All right.
Troy Franklin or Mike Williams?
Franklin.
Ooh, baby.
I mean, yes. He's getting going.
Yeah, he's getting going. Yeah, for sure.
And that's a lot of rookies, running backs, especially Vidal in that same game.
Yes.
Estime on Denver. Tyrone Tracy, of course, is happening this way. The guys that we were drafting in the summer, at the end of these drafts, underdog, FFPC, what have you, they're starting to emerge. Not all of them, and sometimes it's the receivers too, but that can be a little bit more complicated. The other guys are in the way or whatever happens. Like Marvin Mims, speaking of Denver, like that's just maybe never going to happen. I don't know.
Never going to happen. Nope.
But Franklin moved up this week, and I wouldn't quit on that. McMillan in Tampa, so he comes off the injury list and was active. I think he got 0.
I'm not sure.
They scored 51 points against New Orleans, and he's somebody that I bid on in a dynasty league where he had been dropped by a team that's trying to win. And that can be a thing too. You're out there, you're struggling, maybe you're 2-4 or something like that. And somebody else is cutting rookies because they don't have the room for it. That can be where you take advantage and sort of give up on the year, but you do get somebody you can sort of plan for going forward.
Yeah, McMillan was active. Mike Evans was banged up too in this game, so maybe McMillan gets a shot on prime time.
That is Monday night against Baltimore.
Yes.
Sunday night is Jets Steelers. We've talked about the Jets enough. So I talked to Ross Tucker today on WGR about Russell Wilson. He's doing the game, Ross, for Westwood One Radio Sunday night. And I asked him, so are the Steelers really going to Russell Wilson? He said, I don't believe it.
I thought Tomlin said they were going to Russell Wilson.
He said, who can translate Mike Tomlin?
Yeah. I listened to the whole clip. I mean, I don't know if he said it before, but I
think Mike Tomlin says 4 to 5 different things in every answer. So he sort of has everything covered. Somehow the words go out and you can't really know what he's actually planning to do, which was the whole point.
Right.
He might be the absolute master at this.
The genius. That's right.
But do you take Justin Fields out after a 19-point win at 4-2 at home against the Jets?
No, that's why I was shocked when I heard this doesn't make any sense. And then he tried to get Tomlin's trying to get, well, we picked up this linebacker and he's competing for the start. It's like, what are you talking about? Like, that's nothing to do with anything. And Justin Fields is doing everything you asked him to do. Like, it's if they do, it's got Arthur Smith just written all over it, by the way. Just Justin Fields runs for 2 scores, runs for over 50 yards, wins by 19, 4-2. Like, what else could you want from the kid? And we just talked about this last week. Russell Wilson's such a dope. Like, how is this guy? Like, you think he's behind this? Like, he had his own office in the last place. Like, no players don't like Russell Wilson. Okay, like players probably love playing with Justin Fields. So I would be shocked if they went to Russell Wilson.
Yeah. Well, I wouldn't be shocked at this point because they're sort of talking like they will. But
it's crazy.
What does it look like if they do? I mean, is George Pickens a trade target in Dynasty? Because that happens last week against the Raiders. So it wasn't really a big game. They were way ahead, but they were feeding him late in that game. Like, they wanted to get Pickens off a little bit. And there's been also like this sort of confusing, why isn't he playing more? Name any other receiver on that team. You can't. So right. Pickens should be in a spot where, like, they are 4-2, Adam, and the schedule is cake. Like, they should be, again, in and around the playoffs, which means important games. There probably are a couple of blow-up Pickens games coming.
Yeah, I'm trying to look up their strength of schedule here. Middle of the pack. I mean, they got the Jets, not good for Pickens this week. He'll get handsy Sauce Gardner. But
all right.
The Giants are a negative matchup, then a bye, but then they got 3 or 4 great ones: Washington, Baltimore, Cincinnati. They get Baltimore again. So, yeah, I mean, it sounds like it makes sense, but even Pickens is dropping balls. Like, it's just, he's a head case. We always knew he was very talented. I love his talent, but I just don't know what's going on behind closed doors there. But you should be able to start him with confidence, and he's got those big play weeks in him. He's had them already this year, but he's just a guy that you can't really count on consistently.
I would trade for Pickens. I think he's somebody where generally the opinion is pretty negative, and I don't know what it would take. Is that a second round pick? What are we talking about here? Are we talking Dynasty? Who's we even?
Yeah, that's
I,
right.
I think Pickens is sort of interesting right now. They are not close to going to Wilson. Fields is only just Fields. Like, it's rushing. They're winning low scoring games. He's running for a couple. I think there are some good days coming for him. So
yeah, like you said, when you're looking at receivers, looking at the quarterback position and what they're linked to, I think what you're saying is it can't get much worse for Pickens. So
right.
I would definitely trade a second round pick for Pickens for sure. I definitely would.
And who's the top receiver left on the market? Deontay Johnson? Are the Steelers trading for Deontay?
Oh, baby.
They are not. But they could do something like that. I mean, they're in it.
Who were they linked to? Were they linked to Adams?
Yeah.
They got traded, kind of.
Yeah. All right. All play week in the FFPC. It makes it a little bit different following your teams, right? Sunday night. I don't know if you still do that. Sunday night, Monday night. But we had a couple that just got there.
Yeah, I saw one of our main events came in 6th. That's beautiful.
Love 6th.
By half a point. Love 6th. You know what my favorite thing to do is, because I'm a masochist, I love to go and I look at how many 7th place finishes did
Oh, Adam. Oh my
I know.
God.
It's I didn't have many. I only had like one or two. But listen, even I know we're talking all play week. 3K auction, Mike. I lost by 2 points this week. I lost by a half a point last week. Just gross. And this week I had, hold on, wait for it. I had Breece Hall has that like 30-yard catch called back at the end of the game. And I had Dallas Goedert, who had 0, and I had Tyler Bass, who refuses to make field goals. And so it's just like, oh my God, dude, it's so gross. But yeah, all play week was fun. I mean, I didn't get a chance to respond to your text about what do we think the line is, because I wasn't looking at any of the scores. But it looked to me. I looked Sunday night. It looked to me to be around 137-ish, 136. If you scored that, you probably got a win. I'm trying to see if I had any ones that lost. I had a 129 that came in 7th. So a 120, a 128. And listen, these weeks are kind of these are keep you honest weeks, right? Because there's we've had those weeks where we've won with 112 points. You don't get those in these leagues. So if you're gonna have a week where you want to score points, it's freaking all play week.
Our main event won by 0.5.
No.
6th over 7th. So, don't forget what
score.
138.8.
There it was, right in that sweet spot.
Don't forget to think about your wins.
You're right.
It's not just about, because nobody forgets their worst beats. But if you play a lot, you've probably won just as many times on the other side of that. Don't forget to
You're right.
Process that. I'm not lecturing you. I'm just talking to
I needed stern talking to
our viewer. Let's wrap on the Defend Invitational, going through week 6, the signature tournament of the fantasy football community. And who's winning? Oh, me.
Wow. Look at this big boy. Over guys like Mason Spain, Jack Miller, Alan Soslowski, Glenn Snake Carant, Pat Thorman, Rich Rebar, who's always in the top 10. And fraudulent fantasy mojo.
Oh, here we go.
Listen to Darren over here. 10th overall, winning his league. This guy. Am I in Darren's league? I'm gonna have to go look, because hey, Mike,
literally or figuratively?
Literally, I scored 195 points this week in my team.
Oh, wow!
I might be crawling back from 11th in my own league. So we'll see. But no, this is big. Did you extend your lead, Mike, this last week?
Maybe a little bit. Should I look that up?
You don't have to.
Well,
Yeah, 48. Are you comfortable with your 48-point lead over D?
No. I think Darren's team is really good. I mean, I'm going to have a tough time, but I'm Atlanta, so every Atlanta blow up is good for me.
Yeah.
We had the Tampa game on the Thursday night. We had Carolina. Now we have Seattle at home. So okay, Cousins, Algier, London, McLeod. So we're on the Falcons. Prescott and Lamb, they're on bye.
Uh-oh.
Darnold and Addison and Naylor were on that. Andrews bounced back. Andrews is the one that, like, you're just best ball wise at FFPC, you just want to sort of get there. He did not. So finally, he had a playable week.
Right.
But it's not like he was a big part of their offense, really.
Nope.
The Ravens are so interesting. Jackson is playing at the best rate of his career right now. And the MVP conversation is interesting because he's already won 2, and there's almost no way they're going to vote for him a third time. Like, he's already going to the Hall of Fame with 2. And you have Mahomes, you have Allen, you have other guys who are in the running. So I don't know, but his pace right now is insane at Tampa on Monday night. Way too early to take any sort of victory lap, but I'm excited.
Yeah, it's interesting. I feel like, and of course I'm biased towards Josh Allen. I feel like they broke the MVP code, not code, but like, I mean, Lamar had 29 touchdowns last year and won the MVP. Like, what are you going to do this year when, like, you've got, like, Josh Allen has 14-0? The reason why Josh didn't get the MVP last year is because he had too many interceptions. He has 14 touchdowns and 0 interceptions, 1 turnover, fumble on the first drive of the season. What are you going to do when he's the 3 seed or 2 seed and he's got 35 touchdowns and 3 pit? Like, it's just.
It depends on who's the one, doesn't it?
Is that all it is? Are
no,
wins not a team stat anymore? It's like, I don't know. You got Joe Burrow has 12 touchdowns and 1 pick, or 15 and 2, something crazy, and they're like 2-4. Like, is that Joe Burrow's fault? Like, I don't know.
Think about it in any sense, baseball, whatever. Value. The word value is so, fraught with different interpretations, and we say in baseball, or at least this is what I go back to, like, well, how valuable are you if your team loses? And the MVP thing in football is a sort of a relative example of that, where it's not like your team that won 10 or 11 games lost, but somebody else won 13, 14. And in the last decade, almost every MVP has been a 1 or a 2. You go back to Matt Ryan, who won, Cam Newton won. I mean, it's guys that are the 1 or the 2. So I think there's also like a legacy element to it, where anybody who's won 2 goes to Canton. And Mahomes has 2, but Jackson has 2, and Kansas City has won 3 Super Bowls. So is it his turn? But his team, his numbers are kind of bad.
Oh, they are bad. Yeah.
It's really an interesting thing. Okay. Allen is not dead. I mean, I think your sentiment is sort of like out there that it's kind of his time to get in there, get in the room and win, but he's going to have to outstat these guys and win more games. And, he's already two losses behind the Chiefs.
Yeah, that's a problem. But if they can't give it, you can't, but I don't think you're going to be able to give it to Mahomes, can you? I mean, the guy's going to have pedestrian stats. They're not going to get better with the talent that he has around. They're going to win games because they're the Chiefs, and they, people muff punts and do all stupid stuff again. Don't cover Travis Kelce, so they're going to win games. But I just feel like there's the rule, the things keep changing, right? Like, oh no, you got to do this, you got to do that. Well, Allen does all that, and then it's, oh no, he's got too many interceptions. Like, okay, well now does it matter that Baltimore is the 1 seed? Yeah, but they have 6 All-Pros, and Josh Allen has Taron Johnson is his only All-Pro. Josh Allen can even make the Pro Bowl. So it's like I feel like Burrow's having an MVP caliber season to me, but they're 2-4. But you're right. It's the 1 and the 2 seed. You got to get in there first, and it's the quarterbacks. And but I don't know, man. I think it could be Lamar again. Lamar's having an impressive season. It could be Lamar again.
It's so interesting. Blew out the Bills.
Yeah.
Beat the Bengals in Cincinnati with 5 touchdowns or whatever, 4 versus 5. Like, what a duel. And was a toe away from winning at Arrowhead.
Yeah.
Like, they're so close to 6-0.
Yeah.
Baltimore.
So it's pesky Raiders. They'll get you every time.
Okay, Adam. So I'm sometimes remiss in giving you the sort of ball on the tee. Where can people get more of Adam Krautwurst? Not just in the flag football community, but overall.
Of course. At Adam _Krautwurst on the X.
X.
I am on the X. That's right. I do a podcast Wednesday nights at Full Time Fantasy. So you can find me over there doing start sit articles, doing podcasts for them, playing high stakes fantasy football. Find me on the Deep End at Deep End FF1. Always wanting to talk start sits.
Really?
And, looking a draft.
Here's Fred.
Oh, Bolitnikoff. Look at the smile on his face. He loves playing for the Raiders. He loves it.
Let's get him on. Can we get him on?
I think we could. Lives in Vegas. I know a guy who shares.
Does that matter?
With Fred?
Really?
Fred Bolitnikoff.
Okay.
Yeah. I'll reach
out. If you, reach out. I'm of course open to it.
We'll get a bottle of wine, a Bolitnikoff bottle of wine, and we'll
Bolitnikoff wine, which we both have.
Yes.
We'll make all these helmets Raiders helmets.
Yep.
I got one. What is this one?
Paul Krautwurst.
This is Fred Bolitnikoff.
There it is.
Look at this.
There it is.
All right.
Perfect.
I'm on the air in Buffalo every afternoon, and Bills post game. They only play on Sundays the rest of the season. Believe it or not.
Oh, really? Lame.
Yep. I mean, Flex is out there, but
it's out there.
You can find me on Sundays and Mondays through Fridays, 3 to 7 Eastern. And we'll be back soon in the Deep End, if not next Tuesday, but soon after that. Any questions or comments, please do that at Deep End FF1. And please like and subscribe because that helps us reach out to more people. I mean, I'm literally walking outside when we're done, shouting at West River across the Niagara to Canada. Is anybody not yet a subscriber to the Deep End?
I'd be shocked.
The river is very deep. But we're happy to have you. We appreciate your time tonight, and we'll see you next time.
See you guys.
From the Podfather to you, I deeply appreciate you tuning in. And many ask, what can I do? What can I do to help support the hosts, the research they do, the production costs? Go to PlayerProfiler.com, Dynasty Deluxe, World Famous Draft Kit, Rankings, DFS Dominator, and of course, Data Analysis. Subscribe to any one of those, and you support all of us and take Player Profiler to the moon.